Before I get this review started, I just want to say I did review the Little Mermaid trilogy. Yes, trilogy. There are 3 Little Mermaid movies. And so if you want to go see my review for that, it's up. For those movies, they're up on my channel already. Today we're just talking about the remake. Yeah. And yeah, I did not like this movie. And let's just get the elephant out of the room. No, this movie is not black because... okay, I should not say that like that. No, this movie is not bad because there's a black Little Mermaid. There you go. So, people wanted me to talk about that. Cool. Here's the reason this movie's bad. Well, no, I'll get into it in a minute. I want to talk about positives first. Because at the end of the day, one thing I hate about modern day YouTube and film criticism and just things in general is it's just always tearing shit down. We need to talk about the good, the bad, and then we need to get into the negative. Sometimes there isn't positives to talk about, but in this case there was. First of all, I appreciated this movie a little bit more than the Lion King remake. That movie was a shot-for-shot remake that was one of the most boring piece of shit movies I've ever seen. This movie actually tried to add some new songs and offer things to this movie. Not all of it worked. Quite a bit of it didn't, but I appreciate that. I liked some of the cast at some points. We'll get into most of it not working, but I thought Melissa McCarthy, while not good as Ursula, tried, and I appreciated her trying. I liked the actor who played Eric. I thought he did a decent job. And Halle Berry, she can sing, and yeah, and we'll get into that. And last thing I appreciated about this movie was Prince Eric. I thought it was great to add have this character have more character. You understand him, why him and Ariel fall in love. They're both people who want to explore and see more of their world, whether it's Prince Eric wanted to visit other cultures, learn more about other cultures. Ariel wants to learn more about humans, and naturally they get along. It's a good fit, and you see why it happens and and that's sweet. I like that in the movie. I think that's all. I think that's it for positives. So, this movie is incredibly poorly paced. First of all, this movie is an hour and a half, an hour, not an hour and a half. I think it's about 15 minutes longer in total than the original. The original was like an hour and a half. This movie is like 45 minutes longer or something like that, and it's just ridiculous how long this movie is. There are several points in this movie I was just feeling the length. And the reason why is because, like, they'd rush through all the best scenes of the original, like Under the Sea, Part of Your World, all that stuff. They brush past all of it. Like, yeah, it's kind of felt like, oh yeah, we got to get this stuff here because this is what people want who came to see this movie. And I think the filmmakers are trying to give the people something new in the mix, which I appreciate. Again, we're going to talk about what doesn't work about that. But it leads to all the original stuff being just brushed past or just poorly put together. So I don't feel any of the emotions of the scenes. I feel nothing for Under the Sea, especially since it's not as colorful, as bombastic as the original. They definitely try to do that, but it was not good. Again, did not work. But they brushed past so much of that, it was awful. Then you get all the on land stuff takes a majority of this movie, and that didn't work that much because it was just so drawn out and just kind of slow and just kind of like, even when I was enjoying parts of of the movie where seeing Ariel and Eric's bond and them growing as a couple, I just felt the slowness of how it was moving, and I was just like, move along. This movie, it was just a mess in that area. The pacing was horrible. It either moved too slow or too fast, and it really couldn't make up its mind. It was really bad. The way they recreate scenes from the original just feels like no one wanted to do them, or they're just obligated to say lines from the original, and it just felt very wooden. And we have Javier Bardem as King Triton. He is so wooden in this movie. Like I'm just thinking in my mind. I'm thinking King Triton from the original. He's yelling. He's got this tone in his voice. That happens here, but Javier Bardem talks so quiet and it just does not work. Melissa McCarthy, she tries, but she doesn't work. Halle Bailey, I've seen people praise her performance. I don't see that. It's not that her performance was bad. It's that every time she said a line, it was a line from the original, and she said it in the same cadence as tone as the original Ariel, and it just sounds wrong coming from her because it's just them trying to do the same cadence and tone. There's a lot of just weird things like that. And it's just like, all right. And then her animal sidekicks look horrific in this the Hyper Reels live action version of it. It's just, a lot of that is just gross. And this movie, I will say, it's very inconsistent with the CG. Some of it looks fine. Most of it looked pretty awful. And most of it took me out of the movie. And you're seeing, like, some like it's just also weird because like you gotta remember Disney put out Avatar: The Way of Water, Disney and Fox, and then you get to this, and obviously it's not gonna be the same quality as that. There's a reason for those visual effects being the way they are, how incredible they are. But there's still a level of like you're watching this going like, I just saw this movie too long ago with incredible visual effects, incredible water effects, and this just feels so lazy, cheap, and ugly, and gray, and just muted. It just looks bad. It just looks bad. It just, no. I'm sorry. This just looks bad. And then you get the new songs in this movie, which are really bad. They're so bad. They're like when I heard the first song by Prince Eric, I was like, okay, it's an unneeded song, but it was like because I already got his motivations pretty clearly. I didn't need his whole song about it, but it was okay. Like it was a decent song. I feel like if I saw that on the soundtrack, I might listen to it once or twice. It's even though it's not needed. But then you get to like uh, a lot of these extra songs. I can't even remember all of them because they're not very memorable. And you know, part of that is because the original came out like 20 years ago or whatever, or almost 30 years ago. But the other part of that is like, it's just bad. It's not good, right? You get a lot of the what do you call it? What do you call it? A lot of bad songs. You get Aqua. I know people have complained about race swapping of Ariel. I don't really care about any of that, but I do find it weird that we have Aquafina Scuttle. Like they called her her, and I'm like, wait, Scuttle's a girl now? And then you're like, oh, it's Aquafina, I guess. And then she's very annoying in the movie. She has a rap song in the movie that's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. Just absolute dog shit. And it's just like, all right. And then the ending of this movie where you get giant freaking Ursula right here. Iconic scene from the original. Love that scene. That's my favorite scene of the movie. Well, one of them, anyways. And it just looks so ugly and horrific with the CGI. It was just bad. This whole movie was just a mess. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, but because I thought they were just going to do shot for shot, the original. But they actually added some new stuff. They tried some new things. That stuff I appreciated, even though none of it worked, and it made this movie being overly long and just boring. None of these remakes should happen. But if they're going to happen, I guess I'll review them for you and talk about them, and also give me an excuse to talk about the originals on my channel. But it's still frustrating because we know this film's going to make $1 billion. There was a crowd full of people there who are happy to see this movie for this early screening that I went to on my birthday, by the way. I saw this piece of shit on my birthday. That's right. And they gave out these posters, and lots of people were grabbing them. Lots of people were excited. I get it. It's not good. But here's what I'll say. There were not very many kids in that theater. There were a lot of adults in this theater, and that just shows you where the problem is. We, the adults, are the problem, not children. Children don't want to see this shit. They'd rather just watch the animated version. So you can't use that argument with these movies that, oh, the kids, for the new generation. The new generation is not interested in this shit the same way the adults are. And that's just where we're at.